And we're live. What's up, everyone? I'm Lex with LA Taco. We're here at LA Taco headquarters on the border of Lincoln Heights and Chinatown. It's election night. I'm joined by my neighbor, my friend, peer, Alissa Walker.
We are neighbors. It's so exciting.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Alissa is a columnist for New York Magazine. She's also a co-host of LA Podcast, one of the best local political podcasts in all of Los Angeles. I'm also here with Memo Torres. He's our director of partnerships, our Juan of all trades, as our editor-in-chief, Javier, calls him. Memo's going to be behind the control board.
What up, what up? I'm right here.
Producing the show tonight, chiming in every once in a while. Got a couple other members from the team here, Sam, Janet, Hadley, all helping to make this night come together. So we're actually, 10, 15 minutes away from polls closing. And first, I just want to also mention that we have Eunisses Hernandez, council member-elect from Council District 1, coming in shortly, actually, in about 10, 15 minutes, hopefully. And then later this evening, we'll also have John Peltz, our friend and fellow reporter at Knock LA. He's going to be zooming in, potentially from an election party or maybe from his apartment. We'll see.
He's a person who has to stay home because of the rain.
Yeah.
He just can't handle it.
All right, we got another question.
The question is, how do we expand our city council? Do the voters have to push for that initiative?
That's a great question. Yes. So what we have to do is charter reform. We have to change the charter.
And the charter is basically our constitution,
right? Yeah. And there were many things that were suggested or are being looked at, I guess, as far as how we would expand it. And then also at the same time, we would have to do something about redistricting because there's been this call based on what happened in October with this leaked recording from 3 council members and a member of the Fed, or one former council member, 2 current disgraced council members, talking about how they were trying to influence redistricting and really showing that the maps we have, it's crazy that we're voting on these maps that were created through a process that we now know that we had a hunch was not maybe completely representative of the people, and now we know that what we believe to be happening has been confirmed. And so, I think that's going to be something that needs to happen as well. So are we going to start a whole new redistricting process next year to redo that as well? And that's part of the charter too. The charter says you have to do it every 10 years, but it doesn't, there's nothing saying that you can't just do it again a year after you've done it and found that, people were doing everything they can to make it be a map in their favor. So, I think those are 2 things to look forward to. And we also have a special election already announced for CD6, which was Nithya Martinez's seat, who she resigned after being one of the people on these tapes who were plotting for control of the city. There's really no better way to put it. So her special election will be in the spring for her seat. So that's exciting. At least one other election to look forward to coming up.
And I guess we'll see what happens with CD14, right?
Yeah, well.
Hey, guys. So we got another guest in town in the studio here. Eunisses is here. We're going to get her settled in real quick.
Awesome. Welcome, Eunisses.
Hey, one of our viewers says that Eunisses is looking fire.
Yay!
You got that election night glow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's not my election. I was on election night for the primary. I was like, at 10:30, I was like, I'm out, y'all. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep.
I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, you would have to go through this whole thing again, and you didn't have to. It's
Thank
so exciting.
goodness.
Wow.
Yes.
It's just,
Yeah, good for you.
just enjoy the ride this time.
Yes, but I'm nervous, because we need to get the rest of these folks over the finish line. I can't do it by myself. I'm 1 out of 15. And so we have Hugo, Aaron, Danielle, the judges, the mayor's race. So I'm very nervous. I was still throwing down for a lot of folks leading up to today. And Aaron, too. We need them on there.
Yeah, depending on how things go tonight and in the coming days and weeks, it could really really change what you guys can do for the city council.
Definitely. I mean, folks have the choice to keep going the same way, which what I mean by that is like you have special interest groups that have funded these campaigns for years. And a lot of the candidates like Tracy Park, you know, funded by real estate developers that are letting people's apartments burn up, compared to Aaron, who's a civil rights attorney. And so, I mean, we could have a new day, even though we won't be at the full 8. I mean, we could be at 6 council members that are voting progressive, a block. So it's very exciting.
Memo, we got more questions?
Yeah, so we were talking about, before Eunisses came here, about the city charter, you know, what kind of group can put together a ballot measure. It was the next question, you know, if, you know, I think Lisa was talking about, you know, what it takes to change it. And the other question is, what kind of a group can put that together? Is it a ballot measure? What does it take?
Well, Eunisses, you have a lot of experience and success with ballot measures, right?
Yeah.
Do you mind talking about that experience?
Yeah, so I've worked on helping pass Proposition 47. I helped pass Prop 47 reduced certain felonies to misdemeanors. Prop 64 legalized weed. I helped work on that. And then I helped co-write and co-chair the Measure J campaign. And the Measure J campaign took over 125 organizations and over $3 million to pass. But it was a moment to say we want our money back, and that's what we did in that measure. And it said that the carceral system couldn't have any of that money because with Prop 47, for example, the city attorney's office got $6 million that was supposed to go to services. Why are prosecutors getting money for services? They shouldn't be conduits to care. So Measure J, we wrote it in a way that they didn't get access, but then they sued the county, but the county still moved forward with it anyways. But it takes a lot of people to draft that and to pass it, and a lot of money, because the special interest groups, they got money to burn.
And then the thing about that we've talked about before is like, even once you pass it, you still have to have them implement it. And that's been part of the issue here.
Yeah. Yeah, the county, because it got sued, the county had to rename Measure J to CFCI, which is the Care First Community Investment. And even though it got, held up in the courts, over $278 million has already been begun to be distributed in community. So it's still happening, which is exciting. A lot of hiccups, you know.
Yeah. So when you start, which is soon, like weeks.
Oh, shoot, yeah.
Has Gil called you yet?
No, there's been no conversations,
Okay.
no
All right.
conceding of anything, but that's okay, because the rest of the city's been open to us.
Okay. So in a few weeks, when you are a council member, do you think that's one of the first conversations you're going to be having is about this charter reform, and how would we begin that process?
Yes, I know that there's motions that are coming up to start that process, and so the very first thing we're going to do is vote for. The very first thing we're going to do is vote for council president. That's the very first thing that we do once we're in office, and then I think this is going to be coming up in January.
Okay.
And I just hope that it's done in an equitable way, right? Because even right now, money isn't distributed in an equitable way between the different districts. There's no walls between our districts, but this representation has to be equitable, and that's something that we're going to be fighting for. Yeah.
And you would also want to do the redistricting next year as well. Redo the redistricting.
If it's possible, yes.
Yeah.
To do it through an
Yeah.
independent redistricting
Yep.
commission, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
no.
Eunisses, let's say, I mean, I don't want to be pessimistic, but let's say things don't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work with people that you don't necessarily agree with?
So most of my job for the time that I've been doing this for nearly a decade has been to convince people and convince government to do the right thing. A lot of the times it's been across people such as police, sheriffs, probation, judges. And I'm a unifier. I'm a person that brings people together, but also like I've had to navigate the spaces with tough people. So I look forward to that challenge. And I always think about, well, you know, at some point we all use the bathroom. And so you're not any better than I am. You're a person. And so grounding myself in that, because I don't have many degrees. I'm going against people who have many degrees, who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, who are department heads with, thousands of employees. And so just reminding myself that we're good enough to be in this space, but also that we're people and that there's ways to connect. So regardless of what happens, I have to figure out a way to work with folks if we want to get stuff passed. We can't just go in there hollering and screaming. We got to protect renters. We got to create a renters assistance fund. We got to establish alternate types of crisis response for people suffering through mental health crises. A lot of the things that haven't happened, it's not because they're impossible. It just, there hasn't been people that advocate or push for those things. So I understand the role that I have to play, and I understand what I have to do to bring up some of that care for our communities and people.
And there was a really great story that published today on the appeal. It was like kind of an overview of what you're saying, but talking about you and talking about some of the campaigns. And I loved what you just said and how, you know, you'd think it'd be like a non-starter to go to someone's house and be like, I'm an abolitionist, or, you know, whatever, however the conversation starts. But then exactly what you said, you meet them where they are and you find a commonality and you talk about this idea of safety in a way that, you know, I haven't heard it talked about before, and being able to show that when you're out knocking on doors, and like you said, you're in people's living rooms and you're able to make that connection. I mean, you obviously did, and I love how you say, like, we're all coming about it in different ways. We're all coming at it in different ways, I think, right? So it was really great to see that interview, because I think it connected a lot of the dots of what you're talking about.
I'm glad, you know, because, I mean, the reasons why I had to figure out a way to talk about it where people could understand is because of the mailers. You know, they automatically saw you want to defund the police, you're an abolitionist, and that oftentimes blinds people to what the intention is. Like, that's the goal, that's the practice, but the way that we're going to get there is by building up care, by moving resources, by recognizing that no other moment in history have we given the police more money than we do today, and you still don't feel safe. Why? Yeah. Because we're not preventing harm. We're just reacting to it. So it was a lot of 30-minute conversations at doors, because people want to feel safe and they don't, and there's other ways to do that.
I mean, you talked about some of the mailers. I mean, I have only covered like maybe 20 years, or like paid attention for like 20 years of things in LA, but this felt, I mean, I've only lived here for 21 years, but this cycle felt extremely brutal. You were not included in this particular one, but goodness. Some of them were so bad. Like, how do you confront that? Like, how do you see your photo of you darkened, your skin darkened on a mailer that arrives at your house? It comes to your house.
I knew who I was, and I knew what I had posted, and I knew the work that I had done, but at least for myself, right? It was a way to shake it off. I knew that they were going to come for me on these things, but I also knew the work that I had done, the coalitions that we have built around these issues, so I was kind of prepared for it. What I wasn't prepared for was the toxicity online, because that's different. The mailers calling me an abolitionist that want to defund the police, I have answers to that.
Yeah.
But how
it
do you
also was like made you kind of look like a badass. Like,
yeah, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I want to vote for you because of that." I'm like, "Well, you know,
really good."
Yeah, some of them are not lying. Yeah. You know, we gotta finesse the way we talk about it. But it was the online attacks that I was like, "Oh, this is block. I don't have time."
Oh, like coming replies on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
like
especially like you know, the patriarchy came for me on the way that I look, on the way that I dress, and so that was a moment of like having to build tougher skin for me. But, you know, I felt like it comes with the game that we're in.
And I mean, now I'm really like still just completely baffled that the person holding the office has not, talked to you. That to me is also evidence of the same kind of structure that you're talking about to me. Like,
I keep telling people, patriarchy is stronger than tradition. You know, it's tradition to call the person who beats you. But I met the incumbent one time in person to do an endorsement interview for one of the unions. I went up to him to say hello, and it took him seconds to look up from his phone. He like literally just stayed looking at his phone and then looked up and barely acknowledged me. And so I knew who I was dealing with, but I was never expecting a call. So, I mean, I know a lot of folks are surprised, but it's like, if you knew who he was, then you wouldn't be surprised. Because a lot of people are like, why are you running against him? He's amazing. He's done this, and that. And I'm like, I've lived here my whole life, and I can tell you that he is not. You know, he has sold us out. He has done X, Y, and Z. He has harmed people that I love. So, you know, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah. I mean, it's still pretty shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even mention your name when he finally conceded, which was a long time after
Right.
it was clear that you had won. Speaking of how long we might have to be waiting. So imagine if that happened and someone had to transition into the office right away and they were waiting that long.
Yeah. How does that pose challenges for you as someone that's going to represent all these people?
So, since we've won in the primary, we've been connecting with community, having meetings with community groups, going out to community, going out to crises where tenants are getting harassed by their landlords. So we haven't waited. I mean, our hands are tied on certain things. We don't have much power or budget, but we're not waiting to get started. And so that's really helping us ease in because we're learning about what are the crises that are occurring, what's urgent, what's not. And the city and the other council members have been really welcoming, have been open to us, have said anything you need, we're here to support you. My colleagues on the council have been also like taking me under their wing and like letting me know this is what you need to be asking for. And so I feel good. Our team is like feeling good. We've been building up the team since we started in the primary, since we won in the primary, and I have a chief of staff, deputy chief, and all these other roles that are getting filled up. But I feel good.
Yeah, it feels like you've almost assumed the role, but you just don't have the power to introduce motions.
Doing all of the
and
work already. She
Yeah.
just needs to be paid for it. Like,
Yes.
It looks
usually
like
how
we
it
have
goes.
looks like we have a bunch of questions actually.
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions. We got a lot of people watching. Great conversation. Didn't want to interrupt. But let me see. We got them all up on the board. You want to read them out, Lex?
Sure. Yeah, we talked about expanding the city council, but someone's asking how voters can expand the county board of supervisors.
We kind of,
Yeah,
I
we
think
covered
talked
that
a little
one
bit
already.
about that too. We
Yeah.
can talk more about that later, maybe when we get some results in. I want
Sure.
to hear about. Well, yeah, tell about
No,
how
yeah,
to
what-
contact you. I wanted to hear about your trip to Portland. There's a question about bike lanes. Is something going to change as far as bike connections in the city? And I love that you went to Portland. You went to see a bunch of stuff, but
Yes.
you had like these amazing like tweets and TikToks that were like, she really appreciates it. Like, oh my God.
Yes, what I've heard of spectrum of things on bike lanes. Some people say they cause gentrification. I don't believe, they could have impacts, but what I saw when I visited the inner city schools, we have over 54 schools in CD1. When I visited them, many times the bike racks were full, yet there were no bike lanes around the schools and barely any crosswalks, not real safe crosswalks. So when I think about implementing bike lanes, I think about families riding, I think about the young people who want to get to school on their bikes. And I want to do whatever I can to make that easier for them, especially when many of them have to decide like, oh, can I get a bus pass or can I not? Or is a bike lane easier? And so anything I can do to create safe infrastructure around bikes and streets and for pedestrians, I'm going to move on that because I recognize that not everybody has a car. And I know that the incumbent oftentimes blamed folks, that were pedestrians for getting harmed on the street. And so that's not the vision that we have here. And I'm excited about implementing that safe infrastructure, especially because the plans are there. It's not like they didn't exist. Literally, hundreds of people have come together to develop plans on where we could put bike lanes. They just have not been implemented. So we're going to be a conduit to make that happen.
Yeah, coincidentally, we're here in CD1 on Spring Street, which is an extremely dangerous street right near LA Historic Park. And we're just down the street from the Spring Street Bridge. They just recently put in bike lanes, but it'd been, I think, over a decade of people fighting to get those bike lanes there.
Cards suing the city actually to make sure they did it, and then they repaved the rest of the road here
Yeah, they
and
just
didn't put
repaved
anything
Spring.
else in. So you are coming over the bridge, which is very, like you said, very steep, fast road, and then all of a sudden the bike lanes evaporate and you have this beautiful long sidewalk along the park over here, but no place safe to ride.
Yeah, and you brought up Portland, and I visited a few other cities and countries because they're so far ahead of us on doing some of these things. And again, it's not we can't do them because it's impossible. Literally, the people in power have decided that they don't want that to happen. But Portland had a bunch of safe infrastructure for streets, paved bike lanes, a lot of the foam infrastructure. Some of them had cement infrastructure. And I was like, we could have that, and we will have that. But I'm excited that we have other examples to lean on to show that we can do this. We should.
All right, we got more questions here. We're getting a bunch of questions here. So for Eunisses, What do you need from us, the people of LA, once you are sworn in?
I need you to stay engaged.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm afraid of getting swallowed up by the bureaucracy. And I kept saying during the campaign that when I get into City Hall, we get into City Hall. Because I can't do anything by myself. Everything we've done, Measure J, stopping the jail fight, has always been with community and building coalitions. And I need y'all to be engaged and to hold us accountable. And to be the voice to say, we need 300 to 1,000 public comments to stop this or to make it happen. And so I want to create more opportunities and access so that community could come with us and be that voice to hold the rest of bureaucracy accountable. I know that there's a lot of issues with the way the council sees people that are in the city chambers as the meeting is going on, but there hasn't also been a lot of conversations with those people. There is not dialogue, and so that's why I hope to be like a unifier and a conduit to bring more people in and for folks to hold us accountable. So stay tapped in, follow us, let us know what's happening in community. And also be patient because we are going into a system that's been functioning a certain way for a very long time, and it's going to take us some time to kind of reverse that and to take it and steer the Titanic into a different direction.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. Next question. Can LA have an official witch again?
We had one before. Let's do it.
Know.
I don't know about this.
Here?
Wait.
I need to know.
Yeah, I don't know the backstory. I'd love to hear it. Shoot, I mean,
Can
need
somebody
more
explain that?
We'll get back to that. Yeah, whoever asked that question, elaborate, please.
we definitely had some candles on for everybody during the primary and now. So yeah, I can tell you
Looks
that
like-
it helps.
Looks like the early results just posted. We'll get those up in a minute. But
Oh yes, county.
What's going
Measure
on?
A over 74%.
Wow, that's big.
Oh, Measure A. Yeah, Measure A. People need to know that it was written and driven by the families who have lost loved ones to sheriff violence. Measure A would help create accountability for leadership in the sheriff's department as one, we could use it to control people like Sheriff Villanueva who have gone completely rogue. But I want to emphasize that this was a measure born out of the loss of life of people like Andres Guardado, Dijon Kizzy, and others. So I'm so happy that it's at 74.
Okay, yeah, we're starting to see. I know mine's a little bit slow here. But,
Okay.
yeah, we're seeing
when
Measure
you
A.
start to
Measure A.
refresh, you see the little squares go around in a circle, and that's how you know that things are starting to populate. Okay, that's a strong showing for
Right.
Measure A.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
goodness, yes.
74%.
Hundreds of thousands of votes ahead.
Yeah.
Measure C, that's the cannabis business tax. That is at 64%. Also a fairly strong
Do
showing.
you know much about that?
I believe that the county wants to tax cannabis in its unincorporated areas.
Right.
I believe that we need to restructure the whole taxation in the city and within the county, and even where the money goes. Because at the state level, 60% has to go to youth services, and certain buckets already be predetermined. At the city, where's the money going? And so I would love to figure out how we do that. But this is, so I don't think we need to add more taxes. But
Okay. As they trickle down in, let's get another question. Let me see. We asked the which one. Here we go. What do you think about rad libs from the left, quote unquote, attacking Hugo during the runoff?
What are rad libs?
Yeah, I'm not
Not
familiar
like
with that
Mad
term.
Libs.
Rad libs. Are they like totally
radical
rad?
liberals.
Radical liberals.
So this is a attack from the left. What do you like? Yeah, attacks from the left. Okay.
Attacks from the left.
Okay.
Okay. I've seen a little bit of that, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen some of that too. Wondering what your guys' thoughts are on that. Who asked that question? I don't know.
So I, as an advocate, as someone who has been on who is from community, there's a spectrum of people who are calling for things. Some people are a little more cautious on what they call for, and some people are calling for the farthest thing that we can reach. And so I think that those are the folks who are yelling the loudest right now at Hugo, are the folks who are calling for the most, the farthest reaching thing that they can. But Hugo doesn't need to be all of those things, Hugo is good. Hugo represents labor. He's been fighting for workers. That's where he's really good at, and we should support that because we need that type of expertise and value system. But he doesn't need to be like me. He doesn't need to be the abolitionist on the council. We need to figure that out. But I think folks are going to call for what they think is needed. And so just like when we talk about defund the police, I'm not going to judge what they're calling for. It might not be the strategy that I use, but it's a spectrum that's used to hopefully get us to where we need to go.
And like you said, everybody comes at it in a different direction and from a different perspective, and that's part of working as the team. I mean, I just got to keep repeating that because it's really stuck with me when you said that. So
yeah, it's important.
People need to remember that, that, I mean, I see the same thing. I see, are we seeing some results?
Measure ULA.
Oh, yeah. How's that doing?
56%.
Oh, first drop. Bass is slightly ahead.
Okay.
Slightly by a few percentages, maybe one or two.
I think it was, like 1%. Sheriff. We're getting sheriff results.
All right, fine.
Yeah, Luna's ahead.
Yeah, Luna's ahead.
All right.
Pretty significantly. 62 to 37%.
Yeah. And so y'all are probably seeing the numbers right now from the council races. District 11, Tracy Park is a little bit up. Mitchell Farrell's up in the 13th. I just want to say that on election night, our team was down by 1,700 votes. And so I feel like we should not determine any of the races for the council races on these numbers because a lot of our folks vote late. So I'm very hopeful for these races right here.
Yeah, I mean, we kept trying to convey how long we'll be waiting and how, the disparity was huge. Like, and I remember like trying to figure out like, could the math even work? And what happened was so many people ended up voting in your race that it was very clear once the numbers started coming in, like there were these huge leaps being taken and that you really got a lot of people to vote.
Yes, the last time the incumbent won in the primary, he got 4,000 and I think maybe 900 votes. And this time around in the primary, we got at least 16,000 votes. So we definitely increased the voter turnout in CD1, which is traditionally a low voter turnout district.
Hey, Eunisses, real quick, where are you getting your results from? Because you're getting quicker results.
I'm getting results.lavote.gov. Yeah.
Oh, lavote.gov.
Okay, I think it's just maybe overloaded or something because it took me it said it was populating and then it wasn't as much. But now I'm looking and I see, let's see. We have Bass is like slimly 50%. We also have. Are you able to see when you go?
I guess it's just the same thing, just a little delay.
Kenneth Mejia is at 61%. As a first drop, that is huge. That's a huge.
Yeah.
We knew he was gonna smash.
60,000 votes, 65,000 votes.
And ULA, you mentioned, yes, ahead at 56, just going through these little ballot measures really quickly. ULA ahead. SP resoundingly no out of the gate with 64% no. And then LH, which was the one about low-income housing that we talked about before, resoundingly yes at 70%. So
those are pretty strong leads for some of those races,
and then as like you said, as we go down, those were above. I was reading down as you were going. I don't know if people are looking at the screen. And then like you said, as the council races go, a lot could change. I mean, a lot of these are pretty close. Although I will say, Katie Young-Yaroslavsky has a huge lead compared to some of the other races right now at 60%.
Okay.
I guess, who knows? It's still too early to call.
Yeah, and most of these are just the vote by mail drops too. The actual precincts are barely getting counted.
Okay, so you said Tracy Park is 53 over Aaron Darling, who's 46. I have a hard time reading because of the lights. Mitchell Farrell's barely ahead at 51%.
That's very close, yeah.
Hugo has 48, and then Tim McCosker has a sizable lead as well over Danielle Sandoval with 68% compared. So maybe 15 and 5 are, slightly more, the
clear ones.
Those might be showing us a bigger trend at this moment than maybe some of the other races.
And Lindsay Horvath and Bob Hertzberg at about 50.
Oh, yeah, very close, right? Yeah.
Very close on that one as well. That's the only supervisor seat that we'll be voting for. Oh, and then I wasn't looking at city attorney, so it looks like.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Where is it? What is it?
Somebody said
Heidi's got a pretty significant lead.
Yeah, she's almost to 60, so 59%. And Gil has 40. I don't know why I can't read. I have a hard time.
somebody said that Kenneth Mejia already claimed victory on Twitter.
Yeah.
Wow, that was quick.
I think he did that
Fantastic.
during the primary as well, and it actually did work out. So maybe, I mean, 61 is pretty good. I feel like there might not be as much in play on that one, but well, we shall see.
we definitely don't want to call it too early.
Yeah, we're not
because
calling anything. We'll call things like governor, which just rolled up there. Gavin Newsom is clearly going to win at 71%. I'm sure that's been called. Most of those offices, I don't think if any of those were even going to be close.
What about Gomez? And
Yeah, we've got a lot of assembly members to look at here. Gomez is very tight. So we had another one of these races. This is a trend that I think we can talk about too, which was we had this is my district actually, 34th district, Jimmy Gomez and David Kim, where the person to the left was actually being attacked for being a Republican, and this like happened in multiple races. And even to Lindsay Horvath in a way, like, you know, Hertzberg was trying to paint her as like an anti-abortion and all these things. Very, very strange tactic to take on in these races. But yeah, that's a very tight race for Gomez and Kim there. That's one of those ones to watch.
So we got some more questions here. Lincoln Heights Intel. He says, question for Eunisses. We need to demand a moratorium on all new construction tainted by corruption or fraud by Cedillo and Kevin De Leon. Is it possible to stop pending projects until evaluated and analyzed, because they're slamming us right now and we have no voice because of these deadbeat criminals? The projects are lubed up and being slid through crazy quick in the deadbeat interim.
Yeah, so we're still figuring out what power we have over projects that have been approved, and if there's any other like tools that we can use to stop them or prevent them from moving forward. Something I think about are the 700 units going up in Chinatown with no affordable housing. And so we're looking into what's possible. And also there's a lot of projects that haven't submitted their plans that could be very harmful, where we could ask for deeply, deeply affordable housing and other pieces that will actually meet the needs of our communities and other amenities such as daycare and employment services. So we haven't gotten in yet to know what all the projects are, but we definitely have our finger on some of them and trying to tap in to see what the status is of all the things.
And something that the city has done in a very limited way, but I mean, they did it kind of through Project Home Key. They've been buying brand new buildings. They've done it in our neighborhood. A building goes up and it's like supposed to be like a luxury condo building or whatever. And the city bought it. And now they're using it to, you know, we have to make sure that those programs are still good of how they're, you know, making sure people can rent from it. But
you need to send me that.
I mean,
please.
it's so limited. It's not, they haven't done a lot, but it seems like a better investment than, you know, if you have a brand new building that's just built and then you can say, well, we own this now. So
Yes, and there's so many, especially in Chinatown and in like the area by La Curacao, which is like Pico Union MacArthur Park area, where huge business buildings are just sitting there empty. Like they're holding it around speculation and all these things. So definitely looking into not only having to rebuild, but like refurbish so we can house people more immediately and families.
Any more questions, Memo?
is this
Yeah, we were just showing Kenneth Mejia's celebration right now.
Wow.
He declared that he won by, 23 points or something like that?
Oh, that's beautiful.
All right. Well,
first
I
CPA.
love that.
Chills.
I love that confidence. Kenneth's party is near downtown, I think on the eastern or western edge of downtown. So they look like they're in a ballroom of some sort are the corgis there is my question. Like,
Yeah,
do they
where's
get to
the
come?
pups?
But yeah, I mean, this race, we could have a whole night talking about this race. I feel like.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it is just coming for one of the most career politicians most career. I don't know what.
By the way,
most
I know
long-standing career.
Eunisses
politician.
came in late. Do you need a water, a beer, tequila, mezcal?
Oh, I'm good. I got
all of the
Yeah,
above.
maybe a
You
water.
sure?
That'd be great.
I have a water that I've not drank at all.
Thank you. I can't turn up yet because I got
also-
3 other parties to get to.
We got some pizza that got here super late, but they were probably at the voting booth, at the voting
Thank you.
polls. But anybody want any pizza? We got pizza back here too.
I'll take another beer. Should I place my order through this microphone?
Yeah, we
need
need a beer.
Yeah, I might take a beer as well.
We got Hadley coming in. You'll see his
Thank you,
sexy
Hadley.
butt walking through the TV.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff. So yeah, we got.
I think I'll take a beer. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and sit down.
I was like, are you going to throw it to me? I'll be not with all this equipment.
Thank you, Hadley.
Somebody said, did y'all see the comment Kate Cagle got from Coret's campaign this afternoon? Said, we tried our best.
Oh,
I saw that.
wait, what?
Wait,
He
what?
said we tried our best?
Yeah.
Wait, so
No.
Kate Cagle asked his campaign if they were
Yeah.
going to win, and he said we tried our best.
Somebody's like, bye-bye, fella.
I
That's
mean,
not great.
just like making it seem like you wanted this job could have been like the number one thing. Like there's so many, this is another trend I guess we can talk about, is like so many of these people just like thought they were going to skate right into this and had no way to articulate what they wanted to do, your opponent being one of them, or how they were going to like address the community in a way that was meeting them and their needs where they were. And there's people who are going to lose very badly tonight because of this weird apathy / like, I don't know, like you're too good to run for office. Or
Entitlement?
something. I don't know. Like it was like very strange, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then Kenneth ran a very impressive campaign where he was able to engage people, and not only that, but also like provide things to them. You know, do an affordable housing map, a number of other things that really grab people's attention on both sides. Not just even progressive people, but.
Yeah, I mean the thing too about the attacks, which we can talk about that too, is just again they made him look like really cool.
Yeah, they did. And they had named him that he was a controller already.
Yeah, there was the latest mailer that you got. Like the last week was like Kenneth B, city controller, out of control, and then
yeah.
it was like all these pictures of him like just doing normal things in life. But it was like literally it said he is the city control.
Yeah.
I wish I'd brought some of these mailers so we could just hold them up and be like, and just tear them up and on. But yeah, I mean, these attacks have just been, they're not funny. Like some of the ones have definitely not been funny, but it is just kind of comical to see how desperate some of them have been.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we got a couple more questions. Esoteric question for Eunisses. If there are projects found to have been approved corruptly, would you consider asking the city attorney to apply California Section 1090 to seize the property for the public good?
So I can't make any promises on TV online because I don't know the code. But if you're asking me like values based, then definitely would look into figuring out how we reverse some of that and give it back to the people.
Boom. And then Catherine wants to know, please ask about the horrible Gondola Project.
Oh yeah, another local.
Okay, so
issue.
I've learned that, if I speak on certain things publicly, then I could be removed from participating in how a project moves forward. So I'm saying that. And if you know me, you know what I stand for, then you probably know how I feel about it. I have a lot of concerns. And
So
that's,
yeah, should we just say what it is? Maybe
Yeah,
I don't know if
let's
people,
just- Yeah,
don't,
if people
know.
don't know, yeah.
So
Please talk about
if you
it.
watch the show, Mr. Mayor, no, there was literally a plot in the show, Mr. Mayor, about it. That's completely real. So if you want to go get the best story, go watch the show. It's canceled. It's so sad, but it's about Ted Danson as mayor of LA. But I've written about it a few times, and there was a gondola that would go from Union Station to Dodger Stadium, and it would travel kind of exactly where we are, not all the way this far on this side of the cornfields, but it would go up kind of Spring, I don't know, like Alameda Spring, and then it would cross over Los Angeles State Historic Park.
and over homes.
And over homes and businesses, and there would be a stop, maybe on this side, maybe on the other side, and then maybe at the when you get to Dodger Stadium. And the thing for me is, I think gondolas are actually like a pretty cool transportation solution, especially in a hilly neighborhood. If you go to all these cities, especially in South America, like a lot of places use them and they work really well. What they don't work well for is stadiums, like getting a lot of people to a destination at once, because they're not very big and you might have people waiting in line for a really long time just to get up or down from the stadium. So I'm curious as to why it's being proposed as a solution when you could literally walk up that hill if there were better sidewalks or escalators or, bike lanes or all these things that you've been talking about.
Micro metro routes?
Yeah, and and also the bus takes
the
you
bus,
there.
yeah.
The bus works really well, and they just put a few more buses to take the Dodger Express from Union Station. Anyway, but the other thing that I think is really important to know about the neighborhood, the people who live on that side of Chinatown, Solano Canyon, they cannot get to this park.
Yeah.
They cannot walk over to where we
There's
are
no access
without going all the way to Lincoln Heights and over, or going all the way that way. So for someone to come in and say, we're going to build this gondola over your house, you could maybe take it to the park if you want to or something, but like it might not be on. It might, I mean, to me, that just seems like a very strange solution to propose when the first priority should be build a nice pedestrian bridge over the train tracks over there and get people access in this neighborhood that's really cut off in many ways and has been, had a lot of, disinvestment and a lot of people, a lot of needs that are still not fulfilled around here. So to me, it's like, I think gondolas are a cool solution in some places, but why is it this solution for this place?
Yeah, this is another local issue for us, right across the street from LA Historic Park. There are entrances on Spring Street, but there's absolutely no way to access it from Broadway.
It's ridiculous.
Yes,
imagine this nice park. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this amazing park that goes up in your backyard and you cannot get to it.
And there used to be a pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, you used to be able to.
That was able to.
Yeah, there's no entrance from the Broadway side. And we knocked a lot of doors in that area. Solano Canyon, Chinatown is all in CD1. And people are like, we don't want this. We need to figure something else out because there's a lot of traffic in this area, but the gondola is not it. And so, I mean, the community is not really excited about it. And people need to read the reports that are coming out about it. I used to work at Universal Studios. Yeah, it's a big report, but there's like little things in there, especially around like the signage. They're gonna have signage on every single pole and window and lights on it. So it's not that it's just going to be a gondola going up and down. It's going to be like a light show of just ads and things. So yeah, I hope folks can plug into that because the Metro's having meetings.
It does tie into what we're talking about tonight with Measure SP, because that's one of the projects that people are concerned that you would be writing this blank check basically to improvements, and then they would actually be giving money. The city could give money to this and be like, we're funding this really without up getting it approved or, whatever. So, or, without consensus or something like that. So that's maybe one tie-in that we could talk about. But, yeah, I mean, there's projects like this all over the city, right? Where it's like, these decisions to be held until a new council has been formed and there's new priorities, because a lot of these things, metro decisions, there's metro fare hikes, there's all these things that are being proposed, and they shouldn't be pushed through until there's new people who have taken office.
Especially since we have to implement it. We definitely should have a say. Yeah.
Exactly.
And team, I just want to say I think I have about 10 minutes more because I got to run over to Hugo's party. But anything y'all need, let me know.
Yeah, you need to take me. No, I'm kidding.
Let's go. We're going on a little tour.
So if anybody got any more questions for Eunisses, please, is anybody commenting on the IG live over there? That any questions you see? No. Okay, good. Everybody's coming in here. Yeah, we need to do this on the YouTube.
I'm just gonna retweet so people can see that I'm here.
Yeah,
we're all here together. Can I have another beer, by the way? I think you can relax and then I didn't. It's okay.
Get her a cooler with some ice in her six pack right there.
Dude, I didn't have that on my rider for this. Oh, it was a cooler of beer that follows me around.
It's life goals right there.
Has anyone heard from Jonathan Peltz?
Thank you.
Have you heard from Jonathan Peltz? No, we haven't heard from Jonathan.
Should I message him live on the air?
Yeah, let's. Let's try and check
All
in
right,
with John if
we'll
we
get
can.
our next guest ready to go.
We'll get him on the
See
Zoom
if
real quick.
he's trying to break into a party. He's trying to sneak around the back and just like
Right.
going with the staff.
He's very nonchalant.
He's
blends
climbing
in.
up the side of the Grove parking garage.
Trying to get into the Caruso celebration.
I hope
Well,
he gets in.
Look, Caruso just took a slight lead on Bass right now.
All
so
right,
they're
yeah.
going back and forth.
I
right
think
now.
that's what's
Okay.
going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I really think this is going to be so close,
Mm-hmm.
and it really shouldn't be. I think Unrig said that the other day. Like, it should have been done in the primary.
Yeah, I've seen
close.
a good amount of people actually criticize Karen Bass a bit for, the way that she ran her campaign, comparing it to, other candidates like Kenneth Mejia, who like really jumped ahead and ran a campaign that engaged with younger people and made use of social media and things like that.
Well, and your campaign. But I think that is another trend I'm going to highlight is just some really amazing campaign work by young women of color organizers who really took on the establishment in a groundbreaking way. And everybody who gets into office should be talking to these people right now and saying, like, how did you do this? How do we do this again next time? Because we have, there's a council seat coming up. It's in the spring, and like,
That's right.
who should be in CD6, and like, can there be one more person for your block that can join? So there needs to be some big conversations happening in the next few days with those people in particular who ran these campaigns.
Yeah, excellent point. Jane,
Some of the commentators that are here are agreeing. They're saying Bass' campaign was absolutely awful. Her positions are terrible. Another one says Karen fumbled on corruption badly. So seems to be some general agreement there.
And I mean, I think that's a good point too. We didn't really talk about this, Alissa, but like, what does the mayor actually have the power to do? And also, are Karen Bass's policies, like on homelessness, on policing, that much different than somebody like Rick Caruso?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is what's a talking point, and I just tweeted about this before I came here about like the LA Times. I mean, the New York Times had this story that was exactly that question, like, what can the mayor actually do? With their very New York Times take on it, which was not very good. But this idea that you can't actually do anything, I think will be tested now to know if it was like, do we actually have a weak mayor, or was Eric Garcetti just a bad mayor? Because we've had about 10 years of so much inaction on things that, we all feel them. I don't need to list them out here. People listening and watching probably know these things. But to look at, in particular, to say that their platforms are too similar, or that they have the same plan, or they're not that different candidates. I just looked today because I was so like kind of baffled by that line in that story. And yes, like you could say like their homelessness plans are similar, but they're not really. And you can say their policing plans are similar, but in the sense that they both want to add more cops or whatever, but like there's still some nuances. But I looked at their climate plans, for example, and they are very different. And I wish like more people, I tried to call attention to it, but there wasn't a whole lot of stories on that, or transportation. I don't know. These are big things, and they do have big differences between them. But to just say that they're completely the same, it's not going to be the exact same city if either of them gets elected. So I think we would have benefited for more, as bad as you can say the campaign was, or it didn't reach the right people, or like what I just thought the messaging was just really bad, and his messaging was really good the entire time, whether you agree with it or not. That being able to sort through the differences didn't really happen, and they were almost like, I mean, I don't know. Did you get that same sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, I felt that there was a lot more that the campaign could do, but you're up against over $100 million. That you could put any message out with that type of money. And especially like what is driving that, what is driving Rick Caruso? I feel like are some of the same things that drove Donald Trump to run. He could make more money as a mayor in that role. Karen Bass has been a congresswoman, hasn't been perfect, but has dedicated herself to public service. And I just think that there are nuances in their different platforms, and also what drives people is also something very important in like what could move them. And I felt that Karen Bass is someone that we could move more on certain things. I don't know how much power we would have over a billionaire as mayor.
Yeah, and the other thing I think as a journalist who was trying to cover this race, and maybe the reason why it did feel so lopsided as far as like coverage is like there was zero press access for Rick Caruso. Like they did not respond to you. You were not invited to things. Like they handpicked who got to come to certain things, and it was people who were very friendly to their campaign. Even like very high profile journalists, like people from The Guardian and stuff, they did not respond to their requests for comment. And some of us are used to those things with our current mayor. But that's alarming to me because like, does that get replicated now if he gets in office as compared to Karen Bass, like has long-standing relationships with, I think, a lot of people. And if you wanted to get a comment from them, I think they would probably respond to you. And those kind of things are, that precedent has maybe been set already. And if he goes into office, like, what does that mean for press access, which we've had problems with already. So that worries me. I mean, that isn't even like a policy statement, but it's more like how you run your campaign, like how you deal with people. Like, is that okay? Like, is that okay to block the people from speaking to you?
Like the city could be on fire, but he's going to put out a story that, everything's great. That's something that, he's
going to be like, the Grove is fine. Except the police kiosk is on fire. What else?
All right, so we got.
Sorry, I do. If you become mayor, please do not let me come to you. Please let me come to your press conferences.
Yeah, please.
All right. So Eunisses, you're about to leave. We got a couple questions here. Maybe we can get to them real quick. One of them is, what do you think of Nithya Raman holding a vote to end tenant protections tomorrow?
So actually, I called my colleagues about this because I wanted to know what is actually happening. And so, I trust that the intent is good. And also, though, we need to do more to support our folks. We need renter protections. We need to try to figure out a way so that renters don't get evicted. And I don't think that renter protections is enough, but it's the first step. We need to do public education to make sure people know their rights around like anti-tenant harassment. We need to hold landlords accountable. Something I've been bringing up is like, Kenneth, can we create a database of landlords so we can highlight the bad landlords and developers in other ways? But I really hope that out of this, we can create a renter's assistant program so we can give people and pay off people's rent. Right now, something like that exists. It's not enough. It's not covering enough people. We need to fund that. ULA, thank goodness, is passing, but it's not enough money. And so in Highland Park, we saw a 10% decline in Latino community in the last census numbers. It's not by accident. That's because of evictions, rent increases. I was door knocking with Erin Darling in Mar Vista Gardens. There's a woman who had newborn twins. She's 5 months behind rent. My friend, who's a deli worker, was a union person. He owes 5 or 6 months in rent too. I had to babysit his kids because he couldn't afford it. And so we are not if we don't do something to keep people housed and to pay that off, then we are going to see a wave of evictions, whether it happens at the end of January or February. So I do think that we need to do much more than what's happening. But I trust that, I trust my colleagues that they're doing the right move. But we need to do more to meet the moment to help our people.
They're asking if will you push back against the status quo? If Nithya could break quorum to protect tenants tomorrow but won't, will you publicly call her on her to do so? And will you break quorum if needed?
I've called her directly to talk to her about this. And so I don't think I need to call her out publicly. Like I said, I talked with my colleagues about it. I will move in the way that I feel is going to be more strategic to actually advance what we want to do. And if that's to break quorum, then that's a strategy to use. I'm not in that space right now, so I can't say what I would do. I don't know all the deals or all the conversations that happen on the back end. So I can answer that question once I'm in. But I don't believe we should be moving as business as usual if people are going to be left behind. But also, we need to do a better job at educating people to know actually what's happening. Why is this decision being made? Why is this policy being done in this way? Because right now that's not happening. We expect people to know just by reading the motions when the motions are really hard to read. And so that's something that I'm trying to change, is trying to create more accessibility with language. And so people are very firm and like, these are my rights and this is what's happening. No, you can't harass me, and no, you can't kick me out. So
I mean, so many of the problems in our city government is because we use a CMS that is like from 1995.
Yeah.
It is impossible to find out what's going on. It's impossible to comment or find out, you know, what is going to be proposed that day, to read them, to share things. I mean, if that can be the number one priority, I'm serious. Like, you look at other cities, and the language thing, my God, like you go for some of these votes. I remember so many of the early street vendor votes, they had no translators. There were people like organizers who were whispering in people's ears to try to tell them what was going on. And
that's
like,
really sad.
This city has never made it easy.
Yeah.
And the technology thing is a small part of it, but it's a very easy one to solve.
It's the little things, right?
Yeah, even like when
Back
we
to
have
basics.
meetings and where we have them. Like, why do they always have to be in City Hall? Where's the parking for that? It's like $25. Like, why are we not having meetings for working class people at times where they're not working? So that's a lot of what's on my mind, is like, how do we create more accessibility with language, with even being able to attend the meetings and translation? So it's something I'm definitely going to prioritize.
Well, you know, you got to get running. Memo, do we have just maybe one more question before Eunisses gets going?
No, I think that's it right there. Yeah, she answered everything. Eunisses, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, being transparent.
We know you're busy with your parties.
Thank you, team. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all.
Oh my God, is that the crowd? Is that the crowd at the
That's the crowd
Caruso
outside.
Park?
Yeah.
Is that
Thank you, team.
Thank
Great
you,
to see
Eunisses.
Thank you. Have so much fun.
Yeah, enjoy your evening.